Welcome back to the new mini-series I'll be doing with all of the 2024 Brummies, and I'm delighted to be joined now by the new assistant team manager for next season, Chris Adams. Chris, how are you?
Dylan, yourself?
Not too bad. So it was announced at the Christmas party that you were joining as the assistant team manager for the Brummies, your first sort of managerial role within Speedway. How did this all come about?
Well, it was probably about a week and a half, 2 weeks before, and I'd been talking to other people about what I was going to do after sort of Wolves, and to be honest, I'd got it in my head that this was probably the time and to walk away, take that year off, see what happens with Wolves. And then rumours start flying about who's going where and who's going to sign for who and what the other clubs are doing. And obviously, Birmingham was in that sort of position where um, they had no option than to go up into the top league. And I thought, then because of the sort of the timing of when they decided that they were going to do that, time is ticking on now a little bit, isn't it? So I thought they could find themselves in a bit of trouble here because they're a little bit behind, what's going on behind the scenes, and then seeing that Zach and Stevie and Leon was all going to go to Birmingham, it sort of persuaded me a little bit to think, oh, I might try and get on this train a little bit. So I spoke to a couple of people about it, and sure enough, they had that AGM meeting, and my phone pings the next day, and it's Lawrence just saying, "Oh, I hear you're interested in maybe the managerial role at Birmingham." And I just replied back saying, "Yes, I would be interested, really." And then about a week after that, Nigel gave me a ring and said, "Would you be interested?" He says, "I am talking with Sam."
Mhm.
He said, "If Sam would be available to do it, would you be able to step in?" And I said, "Yeah, I get on well with Sam." And yeah, so this is where we are.
And what is it like for you to put on a red and yellow jacket now after wearing the Wolves one for so long?
But it's a little bit different, to be fair. But it's a coat, isn't it? It's the club's colours, So yeah, I'm honoured to wear it.
And you met up with Phil McGlynn a couple of days before you were announced, and there was a little teaser put out, and nobody guessed you. There were a few guesses for your dad and a few guesses for a couple of other riders. Is it nice to finally kind of forge your own path into the managerial and not just be known as Pete Adams' son?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, to people from the outside, they look at me as Pete's son, and you can tell, I had a little laugh with Nigel and Lawrence on that night. I says, "Bloody, I'm going to take this off," and everyone's going to go, "Who's that?" But in the world of speedway, behind the scenes where it all happens, everybody knows me in that sense. So for everybody else, it's not maybe so much a shock that I've took this role on, but from behind the scenes, maybe it is a little bit like, well, who's this guy? But I've been around a long time.
And what is it going to be like for you to work with Sam now, somebody who you have known for so long through the Wolves connections?
I first met Sam when I was 5 years old because he was living with us in a place called Erdiston when my father brought him to the Wolves. So he's seen me as a little boy grow up to the man that I am now. And I've watched him at the height of his career and all his career in Speedway. We've still got a real good connection. We speak and talk, quite a lot. See him a lot down at Wolves. So yeah, we've got a real good connection. I'm looking forward to working with him.
And what do you think so far of the Birmingham team? I know four have been announced, and I think by the time this goes out, the fifth rider will have been announced as well. There's the sort of second strings and reserve positions filled up. There's now a lot of expectations on the who the top three will be. Looking at riders like Janowski, Saivud, and Ovu are all coming back in. But
Yeah.
what do you expect from next season for the Brummies? Looking at the team so far.
Well, as I said before, to be fair, it's going to be tough for them to be competing for the title, but I don't think it's out of their grasp. I mean, looking at the other teams, the way that we've structured so far, we look quite solid at the bottom. When you look at some of the the reserves and that the others have got, and then you look at ours. I think we've probably got a real good reserve berth there. Middle order, you got two good young lads, and Stevie Worrell with a bit more experience, so that's good. We really need some couple of big hitters now if we can, and that'll just polish it off.
And you saw firsthand the reserve pairing of Zach and Leon last season at Wolves, and that was a very solid reserve pairing. So to start the season with those two at reserve again, that's, they know what each other's going to do. That's got to be a plus.
Yeah. I mean, structuring the team, it's easy to pick riders out the hat, and say, oh, why don't we go and get Dudek? Why don't we go and get him? Why don't we have him? But there's a lot of fundamentals that come into that. I mean, some is, do they actually want to ride in Britain? Do they want to ride at the club? Is there going to be enough money on the table? And from a managerial point of view, they've got to get on with the other riders. It's all right having, a number one scoring 15 points every week. But if he brings the other six lads down with him and they don't get nothing, that can affect the team in that way. So, with riders that we think will fit nicely with that group of lads and who will get on with them, and who'll steer the ship, really.
And will it be nice to be sort of local? So if your dad's free on a Monday night and come down and watch you do your thing rather than you going and watching him do his thing, and kind of any tips you can pick his brain on as well as the season goes.
Oh yeah, I mean, a funny thing was when they announced that it was going to be Sam and me as a thing. My dad soon piped up straight away and said, "Oh well, you do realise that there's only one team manager in the league. That is in the rule." So but it's been. I mean, we was talking about what we were going to do over the next year with following with Wolves, and one of our plans was, I mean, Dad's, I think he's still going to be involved with Woofy, so with the GPs and whatever with him, and we were going to travel around a lot of the tracks, and just go and visit the other clubs as more of a spectator rather than working with it. So yeah, I'm sure he'll be down Birmingham quite a lot over the next year.
And just touching on what happened with Wolves this year, obviously the news come out in March that Wolves would be sort of closing. And then what was 2023 like for you going to every meeting thinking, this is the last time I'll see this rider here, or this is the last time we'll be here?
It's heartbreaking, really. I mean, they go on about the sport and, there's talk about the money that the riders earn and stuff like that. But from the promotional and the managerial side of view, they don't walk away with anything at the end of the year. It's all just soaked up in rent, rider fees, this, that, and the other. And Chris has done an amazing job to run that club over all these years. And it's heartbreaking to see that, that it can just be took away. And if they'd have came and said, in 2 years' time, we're gonna close, then that's fair enough. I mean, it's inevitable. It's their land and whatever. But to give a club, part of the second biggest club in Wolverhampton, and just to give them, 6 months' notice to say, oh, you got to go, it's not good, is it? But it is what it is. So see where the future goes.
And at the Christmas party, Nigel announced that, this is a make or break season for Birmingham. This season has to be a success for them to sort of get the lease for another 2 or 3 years. Is this sort of, hopefully a few Wolves fans will come across, is this the time for Midland Speedway to unite with Cradley gone, with Coventry gone, with Wolves now on a break as well?
I reckon with that sort of mindset, that was my jump to over to the Brummies. When I was speaking to Nigel, when I heard what his plans were, what I heard what he was doing, what I heard what he puts in, you got to help him. I mean, you got to help the club. You got to help all the clubs. Hopefully, with me and Sam coming in, we can do all right in this league, I think, and sort of build a bit of a plan. More so for the following year. So it's their first time in the top flight, isn't it? Since 2013, was it? I think. I think that was the only time that they've been in the top flight. So for him to bring them into the top flight now, and with some of the riders that Birmingham's going to see, with the visiting teams, I mean, everybody should be getting every club now, because these riders that they've got lining up this next year, these ain't all being paid by clubs, because the club, they can't afford their wages. So I think that Speedway in general in the league, it's put everything on the line. Not just Birmingham. I think they all have. We're going to see some exciting riders in the next 12 months, and I'm looking forward to it.
And there was a bit of apprehension with the Brummies supporters when it was announced they were moving up, and it may not have been by choice with the stadium availability. But does that make you more determined? And would you say that people need to be a little bit more open-minded at the fact that it's a different era now, and Nigel's different to the old promotion from 2013 when the Brummies folded?
Nigel's decision is, it's either close the club or it keeps running, and this is the only option that he's got. He's willing to back it all, to put everything on the line. I don't think the age side of it makes no difference, and he knows how to promote the club. He knows how to keep it running. He knows how to keep paying the riders. So he does everything the right way, but he needs that. He needs that backing behind him from all of us, from the riders, from the club itself, and from the supporters. We need everybody's help. But yeah, me and Sam, we're determined, that we're going to try and do it for the Brummies next year and put on a good show with a good team, and not be whipped all year.
And is it nice, away from the Wolves thing a little bit, Rodgers have gone their separate ways, but you've got Dougie, Sam and Luke together at Leicester, you've got Steve, Leon and Zach together at Birmingham. Is it nice to see those little groups of riders that still get to stay together as well?
I think so. It's important when you're riding that, the team gels and that the lads get on, and they help each other, through the ups and the downs during the season. So three of them have gone to Leicester, three of them here, and one of them's not taking part. So yeah, I think that'll be a big help to all of them, really.
And this isn't your first experience involved in Speedway. You've done mechanicking for Jakob Thorsell in the past, and Sam Masters, you were quite infamously known for being involved with that very, very quick tyre change at Ipswich in 2021. So you do know your way around Speedway, just this is your first step into managerial side of things.
Yeah, it was 1993, I think, when I first properly started to get involved. I was still only young. I was only 14, 15 years old. And it kicked off with Peter Carlson came to Wolves and was stopping with us. And he had his bikes at ours. And there was a bloke Wolves fans will know on the pit gate at Wolves called Big Mart. And Big Mart was PK's mechanic. And a lot of these mechanics and that, they've got other jobs, and the same with all the team managers and promoters. We've got other jobs. These is just hobbies for us. But Martin was working at Regal Peugeot, so he never finished until about 5, 6 o'clock at night. And the one day he came home, and I'd stripped the PK's bike and took all the covers off ready for washing. And at first he was like, "Oh God, what have you done?" I said, "No, it's all right. I've got it all ready for you." And sure enough, I helped him wash the bits and that, and that's just how it started. PK used to always have me in the workshop, ignition timing worked, what gears they put on, and what difference it made when they did it. So, I grew up a lot of learning my way around the bike.
And now Christmas is coming up, obviously. It's a nice time to kind of chill out. When will your preparations for next season start?
Well, preparations have started now already. We're on the phone constantly to people and different riders, trying to finalise these last two that we want. We're speaking to, a number of riders, 8, 9, 10 riders. As I said before, it's not, you can't just go and say, well, we're going to have him and he's going to sign and he's going to ride, because that's not the way it works. There's lots of logistics involved in bringing riders over. I think you can see from all the other teams that have signed their riders. A lot of them riders have been to the UK or based in the UK already. Some of them started at the back end of last year. So the riders that we're looking at, unfortunately, haven't been to the UK for a number of years, if at all. So the logistics of getting them to come over, there's got to be bikes, there's got to be vans, there's got to be somewhere for them to stay. There's got to be mechanics. So there's lots of things, to think about when we're trying to just, pop one out the hat, and they've got to want to do it. I mean, I'll tell you now, there's 4, top riders that we've said, and straight away, no, we're not coming to the UK. So this is, Christmas is coming though, so we'll pump them all with a few beers and see if we can get them tracks then.
And you talk about new riders to the UK. Once this goes out, Victor Lampard will have been announced. Is it a coup for Birmingham to have a new up and coming rider, new to British Speedway, and touted as one of Polish next big things?
Yeah, I mean he's been doing all right so far. Young kid, up and coming. You've not got Wolves now, and you've not got Peterborough, so I think a lot of the tracks now, maybe Ipswich might be a bit difficult, but most of them, I don't think they're going to find too difficult. I mean, it's a bit daunting when you're a young Polish rider coming over and signing for Wolves. That's, for sure, it's a good while to get that sorted. But Birmingham, bigger track, so I think he'll do all right in the running.
And Birmingham have been a little bit hit and miss at home the last couple of years. They've not really got that home advantage dialed in. Is that important for you for this season, you and Sam, to get everyone at least winning at home and giving your home fans something to shout about before thinking about the away tracks and the bigger picture? Is it important to have a team that will win in front of the home supporters?
You've got to win it, haven't you? You've got to win. At home, if you're going to be successful, you've got to win. You've got to get them points on the board. Going away from home, grab what you can. But if you're not going to be winning at home, just one loss at home can be detrimental at the end of the season. And we all know how it works. You don't have to win every meeting. The aim of the game will be, structurally as always, concentrate on getting to them playoffs. So that'll be our focus from the off. Will be to win at home, get to the playoffs, and we'll see what happens in between. I mean, we've got a number of riders that have said that they're not interested at the start of the year, but may be interested in coming later in the year. I mean, Jacob, for one, he was categorically, I'm not coming yet, because one, his girlfriend's pregnant. He's already Sweden, Poland, and Denmark. So with that and the new arrival of the baby at the start of the year, it would be a bit too much for him. So, and Freddie, again with him, he's not ready to come back to the UK just yet. But they've both said, in the middle of the year, who knows? Who knows what happens? So, yeah, we'll keep it in mind, and then we'll just see how it goes from the word go.
And it's been quite difficult to get flights in and out of Sweden. And with you having worked with, Jakob and Freddie as well, and a lot of Swedes at Wolves, is that, people who you would know, is that more difficult with the logistics of things at the minute with flights in and out of Sweden?
Yeah, 100%. When COVID happened, Jacob was going to come back that as soon as that was all done and dusted. But it just wasn't. You couldn't do it. You can't do it. There's Ryanair had 3 flights at the day. They had one at, I think, normally one about 9 o'clock, and then they do a late one on the tea time. So you can't get the later 2, because by the time you landed and then drove from the airport to that next track, you're probably talking about 30 minutes to spare. So one plane delayed, one car breakdown, one puncture. Don't forget you got to eat and drink and whatever when you're traveling. So for Sweden, getting riders over here is not an easy task because they just cannot, get the flights back on a Tuesday morning.
And you've worked promotionally for Wolverhampton as well. You've obviously had riders at Shifnal Carnival and stuff. Will you be able to give your expertise into that with the marketing and try and market Birmingham as much as possible for next year and get some new supporters in?
Well, I hope so. I mean, if that's what they want me to do. I mean, I don't want to come in and start stamping down on everything. Birmingham's been going a lot longer than I have, and they don't need no newbie coming in and telling them all what to do. But yeah, if they need any help and whatever, and in advertising, promoting, then yeah, I've done a bit of that. I can point them in the right direction. I got my own sort of bikes and that I've got here that I can show and stuff like that. But yeah, that'll be something else that we're looking into. As I say, it's going to be more of a coming in and doing the best what we can with what we've got for this year. But the focus will be trying to have a successful year this year, but even better for 2023.
And now you've just finally taken your step into sort of management stuff. Things are up in the air with Wolves at the minute, but would maybe the end goal in the future be to take over your dad as Wolverhampton manager and carry on his legacy with the club he's so affiliated with?
Well, it'd be an honour to do that. I mean, I would never walk away from that club because my dad opened it in 1984 and it had to shut, a couple of years later for personal reasons. And luckily enough, Chris took over. But we've spent a lot of our life and time, involved in Speedway, especially at Wolverhampton. And if it was to come back and for me to not be involved somewhere, I wouldn't be able to live with myself for that. So if the availability is there and the offer was there, then it'd be something I would look at for sure.
And just finally, what was it like for you to manage the Wolves at Heart team for the farewell? It was quite an emotional night for everybody. Quite fittingly, it finished as a 45-all draw with some really good racing as well. But what was it like for you, to go up against your dad managing and just to take in the entire night?
Well, to be fair, I'd give him the draw really because I could have stepped up in that last race, but I decided that for that nominated race that I was going to give it to Kyle and Jacob, and they hadn't really been going the best on the night. Only because that they were Wolves assets and they'd rode at the club before. So if I'd have put me two top scorers in, I think we'd have come away with a win there.
Chris, massive thanks for your time for doing this. Really look forward to seeing you at Perry Bar in March and hopefully have a really good Christmas and a good New Year. And we'll see you in a few months.
Yeah, and to all the Birmingham supporters and the management, all the riders, look forward to seeing you next year. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. And thank you, Dylan. Have a good festive season.
Cheers, Chris.
Thanks, mate.